of it is that earlier this week, I sent a letter to CSU's representatives on behalf of the CD&S department, outlining the questions that we had raised about the applicability of SPAR that really need to be answered before the city can proceed with processing something through that process. And so at this point, until we get that issue clarified and have agreement on the documentation necessary to do that, we're not going to move forward with scheduling a neighborhood meeting, which would be the next step in the process. And that would be a prerequisite to them submitting an application for the SPAR to us. And so that basically establishes a common understanding of that. Some of the next steps are that I think you've all seen there was an email from the Paths group that went to P&Z as well as City Council and a number of others. They've got a request for a written interpretation in on basically this question about the applicability of SPAR. And so we're continuing to work towards getting the information we need to be able to respond to that interpretation request. Also, we'll be sending a response back to the Paths group soon that basically fills them in with the information that we've got that's been provided to the board to this point. As I indicated in that email, we anticipated that you might want to talk a little bit about that, potentially ask some questions, and so I want to make sure we create the space for that. Obviously, this has some legal implications for sure. Brad, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that, or that you'd like to preface any discussion with before we open that up.
I think the status remains the same. Everything's still at a very preliminary stage. We don't have an actual SPAR application. We do have we did get some conceptual review materials. And I was drafting an email to the board on some preliminary issues, but I don't have anything to share with the board. I mean, at this time, it's pretty much a preliminary, really at a preliminary stage. And so we're still examining some of the issues, talking with CSU. We're certainly getting input from the public as well as staff. So to the extent that there is information to be shared, that's legal advice, we'll do that by legal memo, confidential legal memo. There's also the possibility to convene an executive session as well to discuss if there's discussion to be had. But again, I think at this point, there's not much for me to share just because things are so preliminary. We're still trying to get some of the basic information about what the proposal entails and how that's going to proceed.
Thanks, Brad. Jeff, you have something?
So just one clarifying question. Because of the SPAR, does the time frame start when conceptual review happens or when the application comes in? Because there's a timeline or a deadline that we have to deal with SPAR?
Yeah, the conceptual review is not considered to be a complete application. So it's really a complete application. It's a 60-day clock from then, unless CSU were for some reason to waive that. So at this point, that time frame is not started.
Okay, sorry, I just didn't know if it was conceptual review or the actual application that time clock started. So thanks.
Okay, anything else for Brad or Paul regarding that SPAR process? Okay, I don't see anything. I think we really messed up the order of topics here. I think the last thing we have left is the Transportation Board update.